Hello, my name is Ermal Bega. I am an Orientalist and culture researcher from Albania, and I do represent Albanian Center for Oriental Studies, of which I am the executive director of it. Concerning, in relation to this conference in Rabat, Morocco, the subject of my paper is higher education versus non-formal education among the Albanian Muslim women in the 20th century and beyond. As we know, the education of Muslims is the most important thing that Allah asks from us and about which Prophet Muhammad himself, peace be upon him, has advised us a lot. This is a duty for every Muslim, being male or female, but the education of the Muslim woman is the most important in Islam. Islamic history has shown us that the first person who accepted Islam was Khadija, the famous wife and beloved one of our Prophet Muhammad. This incident not only prompted us to meditate, but also shows us that Khadija herself, in addition to the trust she had in her husband as a just and honest person and man, asked him to learn more from the knowledge that it was revealed to him by the Almighty Allah. The same path is followed by many other women who became later on an important part of Prophet's life, such as Fatima and Aisha, and more respectively, the beloved daughter and the other wife of the Prophet, of the Messenger of Allah. Many important women in Islamic history have been known as initiators and supporters of knowledge, such as was Fatima al-Fikhri from the city of Karaouin in Tunis nowadays, Tunisia as a country, known as the founder and the financer, knowing as the founder and for financing this university called Al-Qarawin Mosque and University in the city of Fez in Morocco during the Abbasid Caliphate. As we know also, during the history of Islam among Albanians, there are many Albanian Muslim women who have been great supporters and of various knowledge. Meanwhile, only since the beginning of 20th century, when Albania was detached from the Ottoman Empire or Sultanate, until today in 2023, many changes have been taken place in Albanian society in Albania and in the other Albanian lands, including the education of Albanian Muslim women. We know that Albania has been part of Ottoman Empire for more than 5 centuries. So the education of Muslim Albanian women started from that time, but we are mostly concentrated in our topic in the education of formal and non-formal of Albanian Muslim women only in the 20th century and beyond, which means after the detachment of Albania from the Ottoman Sultanate. To make it separately as a proper history about the topic. So as I mentioned, many things happened during these years since the detachment of Albania, and then especially during the communism time, when Albanian women had no freedom of studying. And then we'll start again from the 1990s, when the communists fell down in Albania and a new era started for the Muslim Albanian woman in this regard. Albanian Muslim woman or Albanian Muslim women in general have a very special importance in Islam. Her education and her nature has a very importance in Islam, and she is regarded highly and valued, whether as a woman, as a sister, as a mother, a wife, and daughter. Therefore, the education of women has been always one of the basis and conditions, one of the conditions of the Islamic religion. Allah Almighty Himself, the Holy Quran, and the Prophet Muhammad, as the initial of the most important sources for Muslims and the whole of humanity, have their own principles for the education of Muslims. So, for the long 15th century of Islamic history, it has shown and marked the event of and happenings of the lives of many great Muslim women who have been the basis of the dissemination of knowledge in various areas of life, which Islam has included. The Islamic history tells us also that most of the famous women had love for knowledge and have given many contributions in this regard. We mentioned that the University of Qarawiyyin in the city of Fes in Morocco had been established by Fatima al-Fihri, and this university, it is important to mention that it was founded in the difficult times when Europe was living in its dark ages, known as the Dark Ages of Europe. The same can be said about the education of Albanian Muslim women, that we had many Muslim women who were lovers of knowledge. The acceptance of Islam as by the majority of Albanians in all Albanian lands made Albanian Muslim women understand and receive their right to education either through books or by going to lessons in mosques, maktabs, schools near the mosque, madrasas, and then in universities. Muslim women understand and receive their right of education by Islam, and the same goes for Albanian Muslim women. So we know from our history that before that, there was no Muslims in Albania before the Ottomans, but also cannot be mentioned about any education of Muslim women because we don't have any information about that. In this paper, we will talk about also the condition of Albanian Muslims in general and Muslim women in particular after the separation of Albania from the Ottoman Sultanate, the creation of the Albanian state, and until the advent of communism, then about the conditions of Muslim women during communism, and finally about the education of Albanian Muslim women after the fall of communism until today. We hope that this paper will bring some new facts and knowledge about the education of Albanian Muslim women and give some ideas on how the state of their education can be improved, either through formal or informal education, and how Muslim women can be an Albanian vanguard for the education of the entire Albanian Muslim society. Unfortunately, we have to mention that as we couldn't find many sources on this topic, so unfortunately, Albanians didn't pay attention to the education of women after the detachment of Albania from the Ottoman Sultanate, but we tried to find the few sources that have covered in this study, of which we are mentioning that we have to mention also that there are some research questions which we mentioned as for the what were the historical reasons that were experienced by Albanian Muslim women, and how can the education of this woman change more for the better from non-formal education at home alone, or maybe in the mosque and maktabs, and only from religious studies to the higher education of those women. First question, theoretical question, and the second question is, what about the education of Albanian Muslim women? How has it happened throughout history until today in 2023? As for the literature review, I mentioned we found a lack, but we found some sources written by Albanian Muslim scholars about the education of Muslim in Albania in general, which concludes even the education of women. And most important, it is to mention that as Albania was detached by the Ottoman Empire, we as a country remained as an orphan in middle of Europe, orphan Muslims in this regard. And it was a situation that we couldn't have any influence by the Ottoman Islamic community, which means we are separated and we were trying to find a solution how to educate our Muslim compatriots. And one of them, I can mention, it was Hafiz Ibrahim Daliu, who is considered the founder of the first madrasa, private school or high school for the Albanian Muslim women in Albania. So it's important that such great Albanian Muslim scholar established a high school only for Albanian Muslim women. But in that time, it wasn't considered a madrasa, which means an Islamic madrasa, but it was considered a high school. Methodology of this paper is by choosing the way of what happened by showing the story from the beginning of 20th century when we separated from Ottoman Empire, how it goes during the kingdom time, and then how it goes the education of Muslim women during the communism, and then after democracy, and what were the challenges they faced in our society. And findings will be by meeting the people who still are alive in Albanian Muslim society until today. And I met them and we had interviews with them by asking them how it was the education of Muslim women before the advent of communism and during communism and until today. One of them is the former director of the Islamic Madrasa in Tirana, capital of Albania, which I met, and I asked him to give me some information about findings concerning to this paper. And finally, conclusion, it is that we think that the education of Albanian Muslim woman, as we have shown above, has experienced various stages of difficulty in her education in the 20th century, not only after the detachment of Albania from the Ottoman, not only because of detachment of Ottoman Empire, but even during the Albanian Muslim community, which was newly established in those days during the kingdom time. And we think overall that the education of Muslim women in Albania, besides facing so many troubles and challenges, it is important to educate her, being our children or our daughters, our wives, or our compatriots, for the better of Albanian Muslim society, as it is considered the biggest Muslim society in Europe of nowadays. And we hope that this paper will be helpful for the researchers to know more about the situation of Muslim women in Albania. Thank you, and see you soon again.